Number 10. Carol Danvers / Jessica Drew. This pairing is between Ms. Marvel or Captain Marvel and Spider-Woman, but it started while she was Ms. Marvel. So some history. Jessica Drew, when she first came on the scene, exuded a pheromone that made people fear her, and it was hard for her to get along with people. Despite this, she managed to form a firm friendship with Captain Marvel. Yes, this happened years later, but their friendship has become an important staple of Marvel, and some have read some pretty romantic undertones in it. There are fans of these two characters who want to see them kicking butt together as a couple, and they are very cute to draw together. These two have a decent amount of fan art, and a lot of it is in the iconic Ms. Marvel costume, which I don't care what anyone says, I still love that costume. Competent heroes with a backdrop of friendship, the classic friends to lovers. Number 9. Captain Marvel and Wonder Woman. This is a crossover. These are very common in the fandom sphere. Characters not belonging to the same companies, universes, mediums, doesn't matter. That's what the realm of the imagination is for. All barriers can be broken. Now, crossovers are not for everyone. Some people don't believe in crossing the streams, but those that do give us pairings like this. So this one conceptually makes a lot of sense, because of these two being strong female-led properties for each company respectively, but also because of Wonder Woman's upbringing. Many fans speculate that she would logically be bisexual, and potentially more comfortable around women, and could be drawn to Carol's no-nonsense personality, and her desire to build strong bonds. Would you want to see these two together? I mean, once Captain Marvel comes out, there is gonna be some good fanvid making material for you. There are so many fanvid lovers out there, get excited. People are primed. This ship didn't spring up out of nowhere. It was rare, but there have been people pondering it. Number 8. Black Widow and Captain Marvel. Okay, so here this too has been going on pre-MCU, but the MCU has given it a boost as it tends to do. However, there is a period of Carol's history that could really give her something in common with Black Widow, and that is their time together at S.H.I.E.L.D. The two share a history of manipulation and changing sides that could give them something to bond over, and on top of that, an arena where they could meet and hang out. People are excited to see these two interact, and let's be honest, in fandom, who isn't paired with Black Widow? Number 7. Spider-Man and Ms. Marvel. Okay, so this is going back a ways, but this one really happened, and it followed the period of Carol losing her powers, but she still continued on with her investigations and superheroing. She ran into Spider-Man a few times and still managed to take him down, even with no powers. Well, Peter's into that, so flirting led to a date proposal, and several issues later, once she had her powers back, we were graced with Ms. Marvel number 47, where the two went on a date. And what an awkward date it was. It got better, ending with Peter's favorite thing, hot dogs on the roof. But it never really went anywhere. Canonically, we know MJ is Peter's true love, but for certain fans, they didn't mind this idea at all. These two remain good friends, and in the minds of some fans, something more. Number 6. Steve Rogers. Good old Captain America from the MCU. This is an MCU constructed ship that has sprung up since the Captain Marvel trailers have been released, largely in the form of fan vids. Here we're working on the idea of similar backgrounds and displacement. Captain America is of course one of Marvel's favorite cliches, the man out of time, and Carol has been ripped from the earth, presumably. They need to relearn the world around them, whilst having strong expectations placed on their shoulders. Some feel they could bear that burden together, and also have some fun rediscovering the world together. Also, their military backgrounds. People are already making AU, aka alternate universe videos. It's intriguing. We'll see how sterile, as it's being called, develops. It'll never beat Stucky though, but nothing will. Number 5. Captain Mar-VELL. The original Captain Marvel. Captain Marvel and her mentor have been depicted as having a romance multiple times, including this great panel where it looks like he's breaking her spine. Thank goodness she's the strongest hero in the MCU. In the first backstory, they were together even before she became Ms. Marvel. They of course have an intense bond of mentorship and, well, creeness. It's his fault after all. For some, this is a bit too obvious. And you know, Marvel was dead for a while. In fact, when he first died, some reviews said it was the most interesting thing he had ever done. Harsh. Number 4. Wolverine. So in modern comics, these two are just pretty much written like ex-lovers. It's out there. They had a thing. Well, you know how fandom is. No thing is a dead thing. If you had a thing, they will make you have another thing. Some just like how these two get each other. They can be themselves around each other and just seem like they'd have a good time. And it's nice to not see Logan moping around and pining over his love interests. And one more time, for those in the back, they had a thing. Number 3. War Machine. Again, this was a thing. It was a real thing. And then she got him killed. Comics are fun. Anyways, since the MCU is a different universe, that means different rules need apply. So potentially Rhodey could have some good luck for once, and have a nice romance with an Avenger who has no ties to the others, so can't get involved in petty squabbles he gets hurt in. Okay, Civil War was more than a petty squabble, but man did he get caught in the crossfire. Now even in canon, people thought this one was weird, but it made sense. They both had military backgrounds, were serious about being heroes, and Carol was looking for some stability. Her love life has been a little chaotic. Number 2. Maria Rambeau. Higher, further, faster shippers. Yep, all you need is a trailer to launch certain ships. Add the friendship aspect and the strong, at times overly assertive pro-female vibe the Captain Marvel press campaign has had, well, it's not a shock that you're seeing this ship pop up. When the film is actually released, which it is not at the time of this recording, this one has the potential to explode. Number 1. Tony Stark. So this one might be surprising to some, cause well, Tony and Carol fell out hard thanks to Civil War II. But like most characters in the Marvel Universe, Carol has slept with Tony Stark. But it was in the Ultimates verse, so that's neither here nor there. But the two actually used to be really good friends in the main verse. Tony really helped Carol through her alcoholism after she lost her binary powers and was still regaining her memories. This would eventually blossom into their strong friendship. Which hey, it made sense. However, when they recreated Civil War with Civil War II, even more sloppily than the first time they did it, these two found themselves on opposite sides. People are often discussing whether this one is feasible or not. Some feel that Carol is way out of Tony's league, and others think they would be perfect for each other. What do you think? Number 10. In the comments, you knew this power couple was missing. Pun 100% intended. It's Power Girl, Kara Zor-El or Karen Starr. She's Superman's cousin from an alternate universe. Basically, she's a multiverse Supergirl. First appearing in All-Star Comics number 58 in 1976, she has branched out to become a beloved character in her own right. So how did she find herself paired with Harley Quinn? Well, the two actually featured together in a team-up comic. This comic was called Harley Quinn and Power Girl. It was written by Amanda Conner and Jimmy Palmiotti, published in 2016. This comic found itself in an awkward time between relaunches and a whole bunch of other stuff. This was a cute little adventure comic that set up a common dynamic in Harley's team-ups, namely straight man superhero type and Harley at her zaniest and anti-heroiest. The thing was, a lot of this came across as flirtatious, and Harley is already a part of a powerhouse juggernaut actual canonical femme-slash pairing between her and Poison Ivy. So shippers were already primed for another femme-slash pairing in a way not all fandoms are. It was all but a blip in terms of a comic moment, but it left the world with a ship. Number 9. Deadshot. Now this was a canonical pairing. Yes, you can ship a canon pairing. And this comes to us from early in the DC retcon/relaunch event, the aforementioned New 52. I didn't mention it before. The New 52 was attempting to do a lot of things, and one of them was creating a more realistic universe. However, this often didn't translate at all, or simply ended up boiling down to dark and gory, particularly in early New 52. This Harley Quinn could be brutal at times, and she was more unstable than ever. For years in comics, certain writers have been attempting to move Harley further and further away from the Joker. One way this is achieved is by giving her new love interests to prove that she is capable of being with other people. Over time, her having multiple love interests has become a character trait. Her relationship with Deadshot was dark. Harley was still very much getting over the Joker, if we can call it that. Few fans will forget when she took the Joker's face, from the era when the Joker cut off his own face, cause edgy, and put it over Floyd's face. So as you can imagine, this relationship, yeah, it didn't end well. She was a bit too much for Deadshot, and he is perpetually taking on missions trying to get himself killed. Still, the animated film Assault on Arkham and even the much maligned Suicide Squad provide a softer look at this couple that convinced some fans that maybe they could work. Number 8. The Riddler. Quiddler, as it is known in some circles, is a ship that is utterly perplexing to some. So let's go back in time to Gotham City Sirens, which ran from 2009 to 2011 and was part of the Batman Reborn relaunch from when Bruce Wayne was dead, except not really. He got better. In this period of DC history, the Riddler for a period of time went straight and was running a private detective agency. It was short-lived, and he still dabbled in crime. But in this arc, he came into contact with Harley Quinn, and certain shippers liked their dynamics. Heck, some had enjoyed them since the animated series, where Harley made her debut. The appeal of keeping Harley and a villain couple, but with someone who would treat her better. It's also partially the color scheme. It's a cute look. Number 7. Batgirl. Batgirl, Barbara Gordon, from the DCAU time period, and also beyond. So Batgirl and Harley don't interact too much in the TAS itself, but they do a lot in the tie-in comics, and also in the short-lived but well-received Flash animated series entitled Gotham Girls, which consisted of 30 episodes produced between the years 2000 and 2002. The series surrounded, you guessed it, the popular Gotham Girls, both at odds with each other and teaming up, and had the official voice actors. The era of Flash animation was an interesting time. Harley and Barbara just have good banter, they're on the same wavelength when it comes to quips, and certain fans felt that they had a similar energy and enthusiasm for what they were doing, albeit on opposite sides of the law. The two continue to clash to this day, though there's a bit more of a gap between them since Rebirth. Rebirth Barbara is very different from her early days. Some love it, some hate it, some ship it. Number 6. The Scarecrow. Believe it or not, people have pondered for years if this one is actually canonical, but it also has a specific moment, which is fascinating, well to me at least. For this we have to go back to the Nolanverse, which was actually a shipping juggernaut, launching bat jokes into the mainstream shipping popularity. The Scarecrow was portrayed by Cillian Murphy in 2005's Batman Begins, and for many the casting was spot on. 2008's The Dark Knight cemented this universe as a hit, and also brought in an acclaimed version of the Joker. And where the Joker goes, people want Harley to follow. People began to speculate what would a Harley in this universe be like, and soon they were graced with a new version of Harley to play with, that of the Batman Arkhamverse games. The first game, Batman Arkham Asylum, was released in 2009. Suddenly fans felt that these two versions of characters across universes had a chance, that Harley could indeed be a great henchwench to Jonathan Crane, and some liked the darkness of the idea or the imagery. It's a small dark pairing, but one that lives on and draws from many sources. Number 5. Harley Quinn and Loki. It's crossover time once more, and some people just love pairing fandom bicycles. A term I've covered on my channel. Basically it's similar to a little black dress. It goes with anything. Or anyone. These two are paired with pretty much anyone in their fandoms. It was almost inevitable that they would find their way together. For some, Harley is the chaotic presence in the DC universe, and Loki is the god of mischief, so some feel these two would have the best time together, and potentially be able to understand each other too. Come on, think about the adventures. Also, because of the film versions, there's lots of crossover AMVs or fan-made music videos, and they're glorious. This ship is burdened with glorious purpose. Number 4. Harley J. This one is dark, people. It's Harley Quinn and Jason Todd. Now let's put the age gap aside. Ages in comics are nebulous and shifting, and really whatever the author wants them to be at that current moment in time. Also, Jason hooked up with Talia, or rather she hooked up with him shortly after he came back to life. It was a thing for 2 seconds. The idea here is these two bonding post-Joker. These take place usually in universes where people don't believe that Harley helped kill Jason. Some feel that the two would sympathize with each other, and both are pretty skilled and scary in their own right. Do they have the makings of a power couple? Could they heal each other? Or is this a ship doomed to go wrong? Number 3. Selina Kyle, aka Catwoman. If you think that Harley made it out of Gotham City Sirens without being shipped with Selina, you have another thing coming. Not everyone is here for Harley Ivy. That relationship hasn't been all sunshine and rainbows. It could also get dark. It's only in the modern era that has been toned down, and not always. Ivy is a misanthrope, never forget. Some feel Selina brings a maturity that Harley could use to the table, and also would still provide her with that villainous lifestyle she's come to enjoy. Catwoman skirts the law, and Harley, especially in the modern era, does so as well. Together they can kick the Joker and Batman to the curb, because we all know that people already pair those two together, and while canonically it's pretty clear that the Joker feels some kind of way about the Dark Knight. Number 2. Bucky Barnes. Welcome back to the realm of the fanvid. People get complex with this one. Like most crossovers, some level of AU or alternate universe is required to make the pairing work. And when you add the clips you have to play with into the mix, for some people it's a potent combination. People will weave intricate narratives of Harley knowing Bucky before, seeing him turn to the Winter Soldier, being drawn to the darkness as she is to the Joker's. Bucky feeling like this is the one side of the law he belongs on. If you're looking for a good example, the vid Closer by Barbara Gleek Potter is a great example. Yeah, to most people this is weird and you have to jump through hoops to get there, but for others, that's all part of the fun. Number 1. Booster Gold. This is a bit of a projection, but these two have all the makings of a ship laid out. Again, it doesn't always work out that way, but we'll see. Booster Gold has returned full force, and he's more important than ever since Heroes in Crisis, and he's come into significant contact with a once more slightly retconned Harley Quinn. Harley and Booster have met before, but not really in the proper canon. But their time together in Heroes in Crisis promises to be compelling. If Harley really wants a romance that would make people forget about her villainous origins, she needs a romance that matches the complexity of her relationship with the Joker, which many are quick to simply dismiss as abusive and romanticized. But actually there was a lot going on there, and it was afforded a great deal of nuance, which is part of its appeal. It's unique, and her and Booster could be too. It could build outside cliches and be something different. Two outsiders seeking answers being reshaped by the modern DC universe. It could be really interesting. But if it did happen, people would probably think it was a weird ship. Who knows, maybe I launched it for a few people. But probably not.
Alright, in number 10, Green Lantern. While Harley has a bit of a sweet tooth when it comes to dating irresistibly mad villains in the DC universe, she's also given superheroes a try too. Or at least, made out with one. Once upon a time, Hal Jordan's Green Lantern was briefly the object of her virtuous affections. And at first it kinda seemed like he was not having it, but really he kinda seems like he was, maybe just too embarrassed to admit it. Now in Harley's Little Black Book, which highlights a handful of crazy stories in the DC universe that always result with her crushing on certain DC characters and having fun little romantic interactions with them, she finds herself getting a red and black lantern ring. Green Lantern quickly tries to put a stop to this new power surge of hers, and the two end up arm wrestling each other. They're then interrupted by evil aliens who they team up to fight. When they win, Harley plants a big ol' kiss on Hal's lips, with him seemingly digging it until he's pulled back to reality by Harley grabbing his, what he calls his caboose. He flies away and Harley moves on real quick, realizing that she's hungry instead. So Hal and Harley could be a thing, but could also totally not be a thing. We already know she digs the color green, so. And at number 9, HARLEYPOOL. HARLEYPOOL is the crossover shipping of Harley and Deadpool, two characters from completely different universes. While the two do technically exist on Earth 7642 together, crossover universe between DC and Marvel, they've never actually technically met. It's a ship that fans of both feel would be a match made in heaven thanks to their personalities, the color coordination, the shared insanity, and the fact that both deep down just wanna be loved. Hell, it could totally work. It recently got new wind back in 2016 thanks to a piece of art that Ian Navarro posted online of the two characters sharing a milkshake, while the Joker got dragged away by Batman outside of the diner that they're sitting in. 2016 was a big year for both of the comic book characters, with Deadpool being all the rage thanks to the feature film starring Ryan Reynolds, and Harley getting her own screen adaptation via Margot Robbie in Suicide Squad. Speaking of the mark with a mouth though, our next number was previously DC's attempt at hooking Harley and Wade Wilson up. Sort of, but not really. And at number 8, Red Tool. Red Tool may be a bit of a mystery to some of you. If you've never heard of the character before, he's DC's parody of Deadpool, who technically speaking is a parody of DC's Deathstroke. Oh, comic book rivalries, aren't they great? Red Tool is a fellow named Wayne Wilkins, who Harley develops an infatuation for. When Red Tool, who brandishes a bunch of power tools as weapons, meets Harley, he becomes quickly infatuated himself, to the point where he goes from stalking her to proposing to her. He even sets up a surprise wedding. Harley, on the other hand, isn't nearly as into him as he is into her, which ultimately makes the whole pairing feel like a parody of the HARLEYPOOL ship, as if to say it would never actually work out, even if it did happen in either Marvel or DC panels. Although I feel like Marvel would be like more game to try it. In at number 7, Green Arrow. Green Arrow is another character you'd never imagine getting involved with Harley Quinn, but thanks to the Injustice comics, that possibility was waved in front of readers' eyes, and some of them were pretty solid on the pairing. Harley develops a bit of a crush on Green Arrow when he, seeing Harley as a threat, abducts her and takes her back to his base. But surprisingly enough, the two strike up a friendship. Now unfortunately for Harley, he's the one who got away. Green Arrow, despite this being an alternate universe, was dating Black Canary at the time, and, he was committed. And at number 6, the Creeper. Harley and the Creeper are a ship that came out of the new Batman adventures, spawned in an episode called Beware the Creeper. Long story short, the Joker creates the Creeper by pushing him into the same vat of chemicals that created him. But the Creeper ends up being a mega nuisance, annoying both Harley and the Joker. Harley is straight up turned off by the Creeper's affections, and she ends up trying to off him by dropping a crate on him. The Creeper becomes so much of a problem that the Joker actually begs Batman to arrest him in order to get away. Regardless, Harley wasn't feeling it, but to some this is the start of a long, fascinating romance, going from hate to love. That seems like a healthy way to start a relationship, right? Yay, fiction tropes. Moving on. And at number 5, Wonder Woman. To be fair, we totally understand why this ship is a thing. On a purely shallow front, it's totally great. Wonder Woman and Harley Quinn? Yeah, I'd read a comic perpetuating that ship. Back in the comic series Harley's Little Black Book, which was made up of stories told by Harley as somewhat of an unreliable narrator, Harley reveals that she's a big fan of Diana's, to the point that when she learns Wonder Woman is in danger, she swings by her apartment to protect her. Talk about crushing hard, Harley. Turns out that protecting her though, as far as Harley is concerned, consists of gassing Wonder Woman, knocking her out, stealing her clothes, and then fighting those who were going after Diana in the first place. Diana wakes up naked in a bathtub, which also seemed a little little suspicious and throws on Harley's remaining clothes to go track her down. As you can imagine, Wonder Woman wasn't overly appreciative of Harley's attempt at chivalry, although Harley was convinced that this would spark a romance between the two. And at number 4, Lobo. Okay, I get it. Shipping Lobo and Harley does kind of make sense, but also it's Lobo and he's gross. Sure, that doesn't mean he's undeserving of love, but just take a look at the two of them in Harley's little black book issue 6. After Lobo saves her from burning alive, the two end up on an isolated island, and getting to know each other better while Lobo regenerates. That of course turns into a sexual romp, with the two of them kinda getting into it before realizing that the island isn't all that much of a paradise. There's a giant snake creature who attacks them. Ooh, the metaphors. Overall, as fun and twisted as the story was, there's just something really off about putting Lobo and Harley rubbing dirties together. In at number 3, Batman. Hooking up with your arch nemesis's ex is kinda messed up. Unless Bruce is that kind of guy, in which case whatever floats your bat boat, buddy. But in all seriousness, it's no surprise that on multiple occasions we've seen Harley flirt up a storm with the Cape Crusader, and they've even had some almost moments over the years. When you think about it, Batman, the Joker, and Harley Quinn do make for one hell of a love triangle. The Joker is in love with Batman, or at the very least absolutely obsessed. Harley is in love with her puddin', and Batman fits somewhere in between the two to make some sort of absurdist, romantic, dark comedy plotline. Aside from that wishful thinking, there has been times over the years where Batman has developed a soft spot for Harley, including in the episode Harley's Holiday from the Batman animated series, and even in various moments during the Batman and Harley animated feature film, the former resulting in an innocent thank you kiss, and the latter actually forming a much more scandalous ship that we've yet to discuss on our list. But we'll get to that. We got 2 numbers left. And at number 2, Shazam. Now before we dive into this number, quick PSA friends, Shazam is Billy Batson, a boy who shouts the word Shazam and turns into this manly muscular superhero, yet still retains the mind of Billy. Billy is a kid, underage, not legal, which is apparently something that we hope Harley and all of you shippers out there aren't privy to, because yeah, that's kind of weird all things considered. Luckily this ship is based off of one slight interaction that the two had in the Injustice comics, when Harley joins up to help Superman's cause because the Man of Steel straight up murdered the Joker. Hell, why not, right? Anyway, she pays Shazam a visit and is clearly compelled by him, even blowing him a kiss and getting a bit upset when he doesn't catch it, along with a few other flirty moments. When he doesn't give in, she gives up, and eventually the character would be killed off in Injustice Gods Among Us. We're talking Shazam, not Harley. Perhaps for the best in the long run, though, because, you know, he's a kid. No winning for poor Billy there. And finally, in at number 1, Harley Wing. That scandalous ship that we mentioned earlier when we were talking about Batman and Harley? Yeah, it's this one. In the fairly recent Batman and Harley Quinn animated film, there's one point where Harley has kidnapped Dick Grayson's Nightwing, with Nightwing waking up tied to a bed while Harley monologues, and then changes her clothes in front of him. Dick Grayson, being the red-blooded boy that he is, goes from being concerned to being totally into it. Harley then shuts off the lights and gets on top of Grayson in a surprisingly sexy but not quite right scene right before the two hook up. And Batman appears afterwards, puts 2 and 2 together since, you know, world's greatest detective, and seems a little shook by the whole situation. Yeah, Bruce, us too, we feel you there. It's a pairing that we just would have never expected, and one that, despite how utterly absurd it was, we also kinda dig. Mixed feelings.